Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Sideliners on Wire TV, as we have a very special senior send-off for our guys who we won't be back, and this is it. So it's going to be a little different, but it's also going to be a lot more fun. So let's get this title sequence over with and let's get it started with.
Yeah. Welcome you. Hey. I'm your big brother. Where will you be for the revolution?
All right, so like I said, senior send-off show today. I'm your host, Nick Wetzel. I'm joined by Corey Banfi, our very own special, usual director, but not today, Tyler Kimball, and of course, Lenny Ortiz. Everyone's decked out in their jerseys, their uniforms. So guys, senior send-off, switching it up a little bit, not the usual stuff. We'll get back to that later. We're gonna talk about some of the stuff that I feel like guys talk about all the time. So we're gonna start off with favorite sports movie. And TK, why don't you start?
Wow, I get to go first?
Yeah, you get to go
I'm
first.
sorry for the rest of you, but I'm taking the obvious choice. Obvious choice being Dodgeball, the true underdog story.
Yeah,
sorry, everybody, I have
Wow.
to take it.
Stole it. Wow.
I mean, it's obviously, it's in the name, it is the true underdog story. Peter LaFleur and White Goodman dueling it out, David versus Goliath, true persistence and just pure determination by average Joe squad to go in and take down the powerhouse that is
Global Gym
Purple Cobras. Thank you, Lenny. Like I said, it's just textbook sports movie, sports comedy. It's not even a question that Dodgeball, Peter LaFleur, Steve the Pirate, obviously, huge characters. Definitely the sports movie of, I feel like, the century. So,
Wow. Tough to follow that. And Corey, you're tasked with that job.
I personally don't think it's too tough to follow that because I also have another underdog story, and that's going to be the Benchwarmers.
Wow.
Benchwarmers about three dudes who really don't have any place winning this Little League title, but you know what they do? They get to the Little League title and throw it, and yeah, they don't do well. But anyway, it's a story of three guys, middle age, you know, one's about 5'2", and the rest really don't have any friends or family. You have everything in that movie. It's probably one of the most quotable movies of all time. I mean, there's steroids and macaroni. You're in the bushes. You know, it's just an incredible movie led by some incredible guys. I mean, you got the Gus Bus. Yeah, you know, you got the underdog story, Peter LaFleur and all them. But is dodgeball really a sport nowadays? Do we really ever have an ESPN 8 The Ocho? It would be great to see because I love those kind of sports. But nah, if you're going on for a funny movie, you're going Benchwarmers. But you know, there's a couple other serious, you know, movies out there. But I think Benchwarmers takes the cake for the best sports movie ever.
All right, Len.
I guess I'll have to deal with the hand that I was dealt, and I'm gonna go with Talladega Nights.
Wow.
it's a good
With
second.
the one and only Ricky Bobby. You want to talk about a roller coaster of emotions? the rise and fall of one of NASCAR's greatest. Out of Talladega, dealing with his best friend, rising into power as Ricky Bobby is sidelined in the hospital, dealing with what he thinks is double paralysis in his legs, stabbing himself in the leg. His wife leaves him for his best friend who's soaking up all the glory, just to come back, dealing with his family issues, has to live with his mom, gets chased by the cops, some Colombian Bam Bam under the car. I mean, talk about a ride. This is true great sports movie with a great sports hero and a role model for all in Ricky Bobby. Two first names never sounded so good.
Wow. So I cheated a little bit. I have, like you said, Corey, I have a funny one and I have a serious one. So my funny one is actually a tie. I couldn't choose between two Adam Sandler classics in The Waterboy and Happy Gilmore. I mean, The Waterboy, what can you say about The Waterboy? No one expected it. I mean, he was the Waterboy, and then he ends up being the team's best player. Mama didn't let him play no foosball, but he ended up playing in the end. And then Happy Gilmore, I mean, he has to save Grandma's house, going up against the great Shooter McGavin, but he's able to get it done. Unorthodox style, but still one of the best putters to ever grace the PGA Tour. And then if I'm going legit, Remember the Titans. I mean, that's a movie that that still pulls at the heartstrings for me. Great, fantastic movie. Denzel Washington, one of my favorite Denzel Washington movies, but it's got to be up there. Remember the Titans. But if I had to pick the best out of the three, I think I would go Waterboy. So many quotes in that movie, and it's just a classic to this day. But that leads us into our next topic, from best sports movie to best sports video game. So, Len, why don't you start us off here? What's your best sports video game?
I mean, you can't beat the classics. I'm sure we all came up with it. The Backyard Sports franchise. I'm gonna go with Backyard Baseball, just because I feel like that was the OG. I mean, you have so many characters to choose from, so many great rise and fall, so many nights in front of the big PC monitor in the early 2000s for your boy. I mean, Pablo Sanchez, Keisha Phillips, Pete Wheeler. The list goes on and on. The Melon Heads. You got Elbow. You got all these great team names. What a franchise. What a league, so much competition. I mean, it's tough to beat. So many characters. I'm a huge fan of the Backyard Sports, Backyard Baseball in particular.
We managed to talk about Backyard Sports on both the TV and radio show now, so that's
Had to.
honorable mention. What about you, Tyler?
I'm gonna go a little bit different route. I'm gonna go the NCAA football series, not the whole series, just specifically NCAA football 12. That's when they implemented the Road to the Glory setting. I spent countless hours playing that. This is where you would start with you'd start in your high school senior season. You'd pick your position. You'd go through your season, go through the playoffs. The state championship was wherever was the biggest stadium in your state. So obviously I was playing in New York. We played the Carrier Dome. That was pretty awesome. When I was in high school, I still had aspirations of playing D1 football at the time. I know it's a joke. It's funny to think about. But I was going to go from backup to D1 football player, but I mean, I guess somebody's got to do it. But
Every team needs
it was
a
just
punter.
it was fun to go through your senior season, to get recruited, pick your school, essentially eventually try to win the Heisman. It was just a lot of fun to see. You got to study. I mean, if that's fun, but you got to study and go to practice and work your way up the depth chart. And I don't know, for somebody who obviously never would have made a D1 football team or a D1 athletics program at all, I couldn't even make it in D3. It was just cool to see that side of things. So I'd say that's my favorite of all time.
All right. What about you, Corey?
My turn. All right. Well, we all know that it's no shame these days that sports video games just aren't the way they used to be. They got soft. You could barely make a hit stick in Madden these days, and most of them are all about money anyway. So I'm gonna throw it back about 8 years to when PS2 was around and Xbox 360 and all that, and hit with the NFL Street and NBA Street Series. These games were legendary. There was nothing better than getting a game breaker on 4th down when you needed a first down, and the guy next to you on the left on the couch is like, oh, damn, this guy's about to run all over me, and then you got Brian Urlacher going, on camera, and he's just ready to roll, and then next thing you know, it's a fumble, and you return it, and you're showboating down the 50-yard line to the end zone, and you win in the backyard of some random person's house for the chips you have with your buddy on the couch. I mean, games like Slugfest too. You have all these games where it was all about beating each other up, and there was more than just sports. You can't do that in Madden nowadays. You could barely do a dunk contest in the NBA games. So it's a shame where video games have gone. So I'm gonna go NFL Street.
It's a good pick.
Yeah, definitely. Blitz was up there for me. Slugfest, you mentioned that was up there for me. But I gotta go my roots, NBA Jam. I mean.
Yeah.
Talk about boom shakalaka from way downtown. So many quotes. I mean, you still see it in ESPN basketball commercials to this day. And then just from the fan aspect, the creator of it, who was a diehard Pistons fan, had a coding in the original where if it was Pistons against Bulls late in the game, all the Pistons stats would be juiced up and all the Bulls ones would be brought down because he wasn't going to let the Bulls beat them in the last minute of the game. And that in itself, you have true fandom in a video game, and NBA Jam still playable this day. Arcades everywhere. You can get it on your phone, on whatever console, and it's still a classic. Still a great game. But we got to go to commercial, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the biggest busts and the biggest collapses. So stick with us.
It's on us to stop sexual assault. The It's On Us pledge is a personal commitment to help keep men and women safe from sexual assault.
It is a promise to not be a bystander to the problem,
but to be a part of the solution.
As a SUNY Oneonta student athlete, I am proud to take the pledge. I pledge
to help keep men and women safe from sexual assault.
I promise
not to be a bystander to the problem,
but a part of the solution.
I pledge to recognize
that non-consensual sex is sexual assault.
To identify situations
in which sexual assault may occur.
To intervene
in situations where consent cannot or has not been given.
To create an environment
in which sexual assault is unacceptable and survivors are supported.
Join us and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
I pledge to help stop sexual assault.
We are back. NFL draft is right around the corner, and of course, every team's looking to avoid drafting the bust. So it happens, though. It happens in all sports and all drafts. So we're gonna break down the biggest busts. I'm gonna start with you, Corey. Who is your biggest bust?
All right. I think personally we see the most busts in the NBA. And I'm not going to go with the obvious one. Well, this one is an obvious one, but I'm going to go with Milicic over Odin. Because you look at who came at 2, 3, and 4 in that draft with Wade and Bosch, and it's just like, how could you make that mistake? We have players who are considered still part of the big three nowadays in that draft, and Milicic was taken over them, and how long was his career? I mean, what was it, 84 games or something like that? It was just a big waste of the Pistons, and that's pretty much the epitome of the Pistons for the past 20 years. I mean, not 20 years, that's a stretch. Past 10 years, they really haven't done much, and I think it started with some bad beats back in that time. So it's been a long 15 years for the Pistons.
What about you, Tyler?
Part of me wanted to say Tim Tebow. I do have a Tebow jersey. I mean, he did win two national titles. He won a playoff game with the Broncos. Numbers point to him being a winner, but really he's not. He completed less than half of his passes. Anyway, my pick is Ryan Leaf. 25 starts, 4-17. What was it? 14 touchdowns, 36 interceptions. Just an all-around. I don't know how it was even a competition at the time between Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning. I was doing some research, and apparently Ryan Leaf had tried to convince the Colts to take Peyton Manning instead of Ryan Leaf, which I guess it worked out in the end, because we all know what happened with Peyton Manning and the Colts dynasty, if you call it that. But I think Ryan Leaf, 4-17, first overall pick, nope, he's a bust for me.
What about you, Len?
My pick, I'm going to go with, and I like the trend, we're all doing different sports. I'm going to go with baseball. I'm going to go with Mark Appel, drafted twice top 10, first drafted out of Stanford, the 8th overall pick by the Pirates in 2012, and decided to not take the contract offer, go back to Stanford for his senior year, was a standout ace, ended up being drafted the number 1 overall pick by the Astros, who were in that horrible, drought. I guess they couldn't win games back then, which ultimately led to the team that they have now. And he was supposed to be a main piece of the success that they're having now. A hard-throwing lefty, and he hasn't even been called up to the major leagues. He actually just recently stepped away from the game, and kind of, I guess, for his mental health, with all the stress and with all the pressure of him, expectations to become, one of the best lefty arms in the game, and he just never seemed to make it. So more credit to the Astros for being able to overcome that huge bust in the a couple years ago and still managed to win a World Series title with the guys that they picked up years after that.
Yeah, definitely. This is tough for me. I thought about Anthony Bennett, thought about Jamarcus Russell, but to me it came down to the guy who got drafted before Michael Jordan, because that's what he's known as, the guy who got drafted before Michael Jordan, Sam Bowie. You look at that draft, the first pick was Hakeem Olajuwon, the second pick was Sam Bowie, and the third pick was Michael Jeffrey Jordan. I mean, you're talking about the greatest player of all time in Michael Jordan, and Hakeem Olajuwon, who's one of the most unstoppable players of his era. And then in the middle of those two guys, you have Sam Bowie, who had a decently long career for a bust, 10 years, but when you're drafted between those two guys, you got to be labeled a bust. And for the Portland Trailblazers, they needed a center, they wanted Olajuwon, but he ended up not being there. And then they miss out on Michael Jordan. So to me, that Sam Bowie has to be the biggest bust.
Surprised no one went Odin.
Yep.
Yeah, Odin and Bennett were both high on my list, but it's a good point.
We got to move on though. Got to talk about the biggest collapses in sports. I feel like that I can name a few right off the top of my head, but Lenny, we'll start with you.
This one pains me. This one hurts.
Yeah,
Biggest
man.
of all time. Worst I had to deal with.
Yep.
2004, Yankees choking away a 3-0 ALCS lead after winning Game 3 in Boston by a score, I believe, like 16-4, something like that. We put up 16 runs. It was just the Boston Massacre Part 2. And then to come back and fall flat on our faces, blown lead after blown lead. Then to go back to the Bronx for Game 6 and 7, lose Game 6. And then Game 7 wasn't even close. It wasn't even a ball game. I mean, Johnny Damon hitting grand slams all over the place. Just getting completely embarrassed. And I think that was the first time I felt heartbreak in my life, As an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, that one really hurt me. And I guess I never understood the magnitude until I got older and realized, like, wow, like that really happened. And then for Boston to go ahead and win 4 more straight games and just sweep in the 2004 World Series against the Cardinals, that one hurt big time because that was the Yankees title.
Should have been us.
Had the Yankees written all over it. So that one still hurts to this day. It's tough to beat that one, I think. The Yankees blew it.
What about you, Corey?
Lenny, I'm going to stick with you with the emotional feels on this one. Being a Patriot fan now, 2007 really hurts. We had probably the best football team in history of the sport. I would like to see anyone argue that. I mean, Randy Moss and Tom Brady, what more can you want? Teddy Bruschi, Ronnie Harrison, Tyler on the, it's just, we had everything we needed to win that game, and David Tyree said, no, thank you. So for the Giants, who, barely had a winning record that year, to come in and just beat us with Plaxico in the corner, like, that hurts. I mean, that Patriots team is arguably the greatest football team in the history of the sport, and that would have solidified a dynasty for the past 15 years. And if we won in 11 too, it's another story, and this year too. But that was just the middle of this dynasty that the Patriots built had to go get shut down for a couple of years just because the Giants said, no, you guys aren't going to be perfect.
What about you, Tyler?
I'm going to keep the theme going, or I'm going to change themes here, like my last two friends here. I'm going to go golf, 2016 Masters. Lenny's said it best, choke of the probably in a long time, especially in golf. Jordan Spieth chokes on the back 9, starts on hole 12, puts 2 in the water. He puts up a 7, quadruple bogey on 12, and then it was all downhill from there. He tried to fight back. He birdied, I believe it was 13 and 15, and just missed the birdie putt on 16. But by then, Willett he already had a 2-stroke lead at that point. I believe it was an hour and 53 minutes. He had a 5-stroke lead to a 2-stroke deficit in an hour and 53 minutes. It was hard to watch. I remember it clear as day. We were watching it in Ford, actually.
I called it.
Lenny called it, yeah.
Yep.
You could tell something wasn't right when he hit that second ball in the water. It was just, it was hard to watch. And he bounced back. He was able to bounce back, but I mean that's a different topic for a different day. But that was just painful.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I gotta stick with Corey in the Patriots Super Bowls, but I'm gonna go with their comeback against the Falcons. I mean, you want to talk about hurtful? I'm not a Falcons fan, but I am a diehard Patriots hater and a Jets fan. So to see them losing 28-3 was like almost as good as a Jets Super Bowl. Not close really, but it was almost as good. So that one definitely hurt. But honorable mention to our most recent collapse, Barcelona losing to Roma in the Champions League. Totally unthinkable. 4-1 on aggregate, and Roma's able to come back and win on away goals. But I have to go with the Falcons' monumental collapse against the New England Patriots. But we got to go to another commercial. When we come back, we're going to talk about our favorite uniforms and our hottest takes.
We have a big problem, and we need your help.
It's happening on college campuses, at bars, at parties, even in high schools.
It's happening to our sisters and our daughters,
our wives and our friends.
It's called sexual assault, and it has to stop.
We have to stop it. So listen up.
If she doesn't consent, or if she can't consent, it's rape, it's assault.
It's a crime. It's
It's wrong.
If I saw it happening, I was taught you have to do something about it.
If I saw it happening, I speak up.
If I saw it happening, I'd never blame her. I'd help her.
Because I don't want to be a part of the problem.
I want to be a part of the solution.
We need all of you to be part of the solution. This is about respect. It's about responsibility.
It's up to all of us to put an end to sexual assault. And that starts with you.
Because one is too many.
So as you can see, it's Jersey Day here on Sideliner, so we got to talk about our favorite uniforms. Len, I'll start with you. What's your favorite uniform?
All right, this one's tough for me. If I'm gonna go with the early 2000s, T-Mac and Vince Carter, Toronto Raptors, purple jersey with the dinosaur on it, with the raptor on it. I mean, you want to talk about classic, and you want to talk about for an era too, or you want to talk about an era like that. I feel like that jersey epitomized, I guess, like American culture at that time, where it was just like so experimental. People were just wearing funky clothes. It was kind of like, you know, like that 90s kind of lagging on. I feel like every time I see somebody wearing that throwback jersey, just brings me back to that time and place where just like people were wearing just like, you know, comfy stuff, wearing like abstract colors and things like that. And to have like that iconic like little dinosaur raptor on it, that's just my personal favorite out of any sport.
What about you, TK?
I'm going to go the unconventional route here, and I'm going to say the signature Tiger Woods Sunday red polo.
Big golf guy.
The huge golf guy over here. I don't. Where you been? You know that. The tournaments that he's won on Sundays, you know, the leaderboards that he's climbed, and then, you know, the leads that he's grown and the deficits that he's shattered on Sundays in those red polos. I mean, it obviously meant enough to Nike for them to tell Patrick Reed, who usually wears red on Sundays, that he couldn't wear red. This Sunday, when both him and Tiger were playing in the Masters, we all know how that ended up. Patrick Reed, the Captain America, wanted to go win the Masters for the first time, but you know, Tiger was still in that red, and so it's nice to see him back in red on Sundays.
What about you, Corey?
All right, I got a couple honorable mentions that I'm going to start with. First one is going to be the Dream Team jerseys. Those things are iconic. You could wear them to any event ever, and people will love them just because, you know, that's what they represent, is America. Also, you know, on a lesser scale, I would go with the early 2000s Suns jerseys, just that basketball cross with like Oakley and Nash and Stoudemire and Shaq. Those things were just legendary, and I love wearing those things. But my favorite of all time, and more of the classical approach like TK over here, I'm gonna have to go with the Yankees pinstripes. Nothing will ever top anything that represents anything in sports like the Yankees pinstripes. You've had the greatest of great baseball players play in those jerseys. Those things will be around forever, even though there's, half the numbers left. Those jerseys are just so iconic, and there's so much history behind them in the stadium and Monument Park. There's just so much behind some thread that it's just crazy to think about.
Yeah, you got to rep the pinstripes always. For me, this one was so tough. I really like the early 90s Nuggets jerseys. It was like very rainbowish. The Suns jersey that you mentioned, but it's tough. I guess since I'm wearing it right now, I might as well just say the old 76ers jersey. But it's just so tough to decide. I mean, you have the early Magic jerseys with Penny and Shaq.
Yeah.
The Miami Vice jerseys now, those are so
nice.
fresh.
Yep.
But it's just so tough. But we gotta move over to hottest take. Austin keeps giving me the finger. But Lenny, we'll start with you. What's your hottest take?
As far as what? Like what's going to go on this year?
Or whatever you think. It's your hot take.
All right. Let's see. My hot take. The Jets will win a Super Bowl before the Patriots win their next Super Bowl.
Wow.
Hot take right now. You heard it first. I think the era's over in New England. The Jets will win a Super Bowl before the Patriots do.
Wow. All right.
Hot take.
Wow.
Hot take. Hot. Don't touch it. It's hot.
Yeah, that's scorching hot right there. Corey, what about you?
To be honest with you, my hot take would be there will be an additional NFL team in the league before anyone else in the AFC East wins the Super Bowl, aside from the Patriots. I think that coaching and front office and back office triumph, any kind of player the Jets, the Dolphins, or the Bills could take in any draft. I feel like when you have such a destroyed franchise at some points, that it's just so hard to bounce back. I think the Patriots dynasty after Tom Brady will be just as legendary. It doesn't matter who is at the quarterback because there's always going to be someone who steps up, and that's the Bill Belichick way.
What about you, Tyler?
My hot take is actually a little bit more short-term. We'll be able to find this one out a little bit closer than the other two. My hot take, my bold prediction is that the LeBron James signs with the 76ers in the offseason. Hot take, you heard it here first. He's going to trust the process. He knows that he lost the 3 seed to the 76ers without him on the team. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, they're clicking right now. I can only imagine the things that they would do with LeBron. It was all rumors. It was rumored that he was, house shopping in Philly over the All-Star break. I trust the process. I'm not necessarily a 76ers fan, but I think LeBron trusts the process, and I think the 76ers could do big, big things.
I thought you were going to hop on the Knights bandwagon there.
No, not yet. Not yet.
My hot take is also LeBron related, and that it's LeBron James will not represent the Eastern Conference in the finals this year. I don't care about the recent surge that the Cavaliers have had or Kyrie's injury knocking him out of the playoffs. I just don't think that this Cleveland Cavaliers team is good enough to make it through the Eastern Conference. I think at some point someone trips them up. It'll probably come in the Eastern Conference Finals. Maybe the Raptors, all grown up, can do it. But that's my hot take. LeBron James will not represent the Eastern Conference in the finals this year for the first time in 7-8 years. But we have to go to another commercial, and we come back. We got to talk about the biggest injury, and before I die, what would I like to see? So stay with us.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
The It's On Us pledge is a personal commitment to help keep men and women safe from sexual assault.
It is a promise
to not be a bystander to the problem,
but to be a part of the solution.
As a SUNY Oneonta student athlete, I am proud to take the pledge. I pledge
to help keep men and women safe from sexual assault.
I promise
not to be a bystander to the problem,
but a part of the solution.
I pledge to recognize
that non-consensual sex is sexual assault.
To identify situations
in which sexual assault may occur.
To intervene
in situations where consent cannot or has not been given.
To create an environment
in which sexual assault is unacceptable and survivors are supported.
Join us and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
I pledge to help stop sexual assault.
All right, we are back. Terrible floor managing.
Wow.
I am the best.
Jeez.
All right, Corey, start us off on what do you think is the biggest injury that we've seen in sports?
All right, we're not going with most gruesome, right?
Nope. No,
okay,
just
yeah,
career-altering, biggest game changer.
I'm going to keep it recent just because there's a lot of injuries that have gone on forever, but I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson and J.J. Watt. I mean, these guys represent the NFL in such a positive manner. I remember when Deshaun Watson came into the NFL, his first game check was donated to the cafeteria ladies that worked for the Houston Texans. That's remarkable. For him, a guy like that to tear his ACL makes me believe there's no such thing as karma. Second, with J.J. Watt, that man raised over, $15 million for the state of Texas in a time like that, and then he gets hurt? Like, come on, this team was going to be good. They were going to make a run at something. They finally got some young talent. They're going to get some more young talent. And it's just a shame to watch good guys like that go for no reason like that. They play hard, and that's what they get. It's not fair.
What about you, Tyler?
I'm going to go a little bit dated. I'm going to say Ken Griffey Jr. He was a absolute force, face of the Mariners. 13-time All-Star. Many consider him to be, the best baseball player of all time. He just couldn't stay healthy. It's crazy. It's unbelievable to think of the things that potentially that the Mariners could have done should he stayed healthy. Just some quick stats. I mean, 630 home runs, back-to-back years of 56 home runs in 97 and 98. I mean, not even the Yankees could stop him at the time. It's hard. It's just. I mean, I didn't follow baseball enough at the time to be able to see him play. I mean, obviously, early 2000s he was more hurt than he was anything else. But I just think that Ken Griffey and kind of what he meant to that organization, what he meant to that city, him being on the bench, injured, it had a potential, shockwave and butterfly effect, on the whole organization.
What about you, Lon?
All right, I'm going to go with the worst type of injury that you could have, and that's death. I'm going to go with Jose Fernandez. Recently, last year, in the boating accident that took his life. You want to talk about catastrophic? I mean, the man died, first of all. Second of all, he took his organization with him.
Yeah.
And the Yankees got Giancarlo Stanton because of it. I mean, it's terrible to see, especially he was so young, always on the watch for Cy Young potential. And I mean, his best years arguably were ahead of him. And you want to talk about somebody who just changed the whole culture, the whole organization down in Miami. They went from being not really relevant since the early 2000s to all of a sudden on the scene and kind of stirring up some excitement, especially at the time the Marlins were right there in the mix in the NL East with the Nationals and the Mets, and it was starting to be that was starting to become one of the forefront divisions in baseball. And then after the accident, the Marlins look like a Double-A team right now. Giancarlo's gone, Christian Yelich is gone, Marcell Ozuna's gone. I mean, there's just been a complete fire sale, switching in the ownership for the organization. And the whole city, really, honestly, there's no excitement at all in that ballpark anymore. After he brought so much life and excitement and enthusiasm to the franchise, it's terrible to see such a young player lose his life, not only his career, at the worst possible time, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely a tough pill to swallow there for baseball fans everywhere, not even just Marlins fans. For me, mine's a little, I guess it's still recent, but it seems like a while ago at this point. Derrick Rose's injury.
Yeah.
Fresh off his MVP, looked like the East wasn't just going to be LeBron's playground. And then he gets hurt and hasn't been the same ever since. And it's almost sad to see because there was so much potential there, not only for just him and a great career, but the Bulls in general. The Bulls look like they were finally back to being one of the best teams in the league year in, year out, and they still haven't recovered. And I don't know when we're going to see the Bulls be good again. Derrick Rose is still playing, but it's tough to watch. He's bounced around from team to team. Now he's with Tom Thibodeau again, so maybe he can get some of the magic back, but it'll never be the same as it was when he was back to his MVP self. But we got to move on to Before I Die. What's one thing you'd like to see before you die? So Lenny, we'll start with you.
Wow, there's so many things I want to see before I die. So many personal things. I mean, before I die, I need to be there when the Knicks win an NBA Finals. I need to be in the Garden. I need that chapter of my life to be fulfilled before I go. I mean, the amount of ups and downs, roller coaster rides with the Knicks. I mean, the Jets are there too, and the Jets believe me, but I think there's something special about basketball in New York City, especially at the Mecca. I need to see the Knicks clinch an NBA final championship at Madison Square Garden. That's what I need.
What about you, Tyler?
I feel like the obvious choice for me would have been to see Syracuse win another national championship, win another one for the 315. But I think personally, the life that I'm living now, I feel like, and this actually might not be too, might be setting a low bar here, but I would love to see the Vegas Knights win a Stanley Cup. It's possible this year, who knows, hopefully. But I just think that would be the best thing for that city. Vegas is a hockey town. I've had the privilege to be there. That community has more than embraced them and welcomed them. It's just an absolute party. That arena is a spectacle. The production is of the games, pregame, the in-game entertainment is just an absolute production. I just think that would be the coolest thing to see them succeed. That's, like I said, I know I might be setting myself low there, but that would be great to see.
What about you, Corey?
I'm going to change the pace up a little bit and get a little real note from a business point of view. I think sports are way too complacent for what they are right now, and I think teams are too. I think teams are okay with tanking and doing this, but I think there should be teams ready to go. Just in case, a team like the Marlins, they're selling all their stuff like this. They should be kicked out of the league and the team should be brought in. I think there should be more leagues that challenge the MLB and challenge the NBA and challenge the NFL because we're getting complacent. We're looking at all these rule changes and they don't make sense to the common viewer. We're getting more commercials than we are getting gameplay for football games, and that's a joke. So to hear about new not NFL, but new football leagues coming about, that's pretty cool because now the NFL has to make moves. And if they do have to make moves, they can't become complacent, which is a common thing businesses do when they're in a monopoly. Who else has a pro football league? I mean, like the NFL. Is there anything else like that in America? Is there anything else like the MLB? No, there isn't. There's a lot of talent out there, and there may not be as entertaining talent, but there can be. And I think we're limiting a lot of that talent to one league and one TV series, and all these networks own the same thing, and I just don't think it's fair to the common viewer and the people who put time and money into the sports they love, because it's just, there's no passion behind the sports anymore besides money, and it's a shame. So I think that there should be some challenges, and I would like to see that. I think that I would love to see new things come abroad with new football leagues, new MLBs, and new NBAs. It'd just be great for the sports and just great for entertainment as a whole.
Very well said, Corey. For me, I would love to see my teams win a championship, like Lenny said. Knicks win a championship, Jets win a championship. But even higher than that, I would love to see Team USA win a World Cup. We're not even in it this year, which is embarrassing, but I would love to see Team USA win a World Cup, be mentioned when talking about the soccer powers of the world. I'd also like to see Pro Rel be instituted into the MLS, make that league viable so that maybe one day USA can have teams in Champions League. But soccer is such a global sport, and the fact that America barely pays attention to it and that we invest nothing into our soccer teams is ridiculous. Our women's team is amazing. So I want to see that taken more seriously. And if I ever see, because I feel like the Jets winning a Super Bowl and the Knicks, as crazy as it seems now, it's going to happen one day. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Team USA didn't win a World Cup. We didn't even make it this year. So if I ever see that, that would just be incredible. But that's going to do it for another edition of the Sideliners on Wire TV. It's only so few left, so it's starting to get real. But we still have a couple left, so don't worry.
I'd like to yield all my points to Corey. That last point that he made definitely blew mine completely out of the water. I don't know where I got my points from, but Corey now has 36 points. I don't know if to check 35? My math, but
that math doesn't right.
35. I don't know. I have 0 points. Corey has 35, 36. I'll give him 36. I don't
Corey
care.
now has billions of points.
Yeah, unlimited points.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride, guys. I'm gonna miss you guys. Thanks for letting us be a part of this. Like I said, it's been a hell of a ride. So
we'll be back.
Jeez.
Did I get it? I got it.